10 areas that you want to look at to make sure that you're addressing. So just to back up a second. So I am not treating cancer. What I do is help test, see what's going on, what's going sideways, what toxins, deficiencies, and things are in the body, and support those areas so the body can perform better.
Welcome to another episode of the Matter Over Mind Experience. I'm your host, master trainer, and weight management expert, Narado Zeco Powell. And today, guess who I have? Functional nutritionist, Katrina Faux. Katrina, not only is she an expert, but she's also a cancer survivor. So today, we're going to talk about the power of holistic health. We're going to talk about her journey. She's going to tell us the tips that she used and the things that she used to get her through some of the toughest times of her life. Because I have two people in my family right now who's going through cancer, and it is a nightmare. I do not wish that on my worst enemy. And for Katrina to be a strong enough woman to have gone through that, survived it, and has the expertise to help others, I cannot wait to have her on the show today. And with that being said, Katrina, welcome to the show.
Oh, great to be here.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here. And I want to start this puppy off with the obvious question. Tell us about your journey and tell us about your story.
Absolutely. So I was nursing my fifth baby when I found the lump, and I had a plug duct, and I thought it would resolve when that went away. And when the plug duct resolved, the lump was still there, and it was the size of a golf ball. So it wasn't a small thing. And as I dug in and got a diagnosis, it was actually breast cancer. So I was really stunned when we got that diagnosis because we were already doing, all the right things. We had cleaned up our diet. We were, making our own toiletries and cleaning products. I mean, we had moved up to Idaho so we could raise our own meat animals. I mean, kind of extreme. We were doing all the stuff. And yet there I was with that diagnosis. And so for me, my daughter had some teeth issues that we had used diet to address. And so I'd already seen the power of food as medicine. So it was kind of a no-brainer for me to look natural and see what could I do and really dig into why did this happen? It kind of pissed me off, honestly. Because I'd been doing so much for our health to still end up in this place. So I figured clearly something I'm doing is not right. And I wanted to set all my biases aside and make sure I didn't miss something thinking I'd already figured this or that out. And I put everything on the table. Let's look at all of this. Let's look at the research. Let's look at the, clinical, anecdotal, all of it. And the whole journey was really interesting. And that's what actually led me to becoming a practitioner, because after seeing how incredibly powerful food is as medicine, it just made me want to learn more and go back to school. So the first thing I did was I got in a plane and went down to Mexico and went to a Gerson clinic, because everything online at that point was saying raw juicing, all that plant-based vegan stuff. And when I went down there, I had read a lot of the books about it and was asking a lot of questions, how is this going to work? And different aspects of the treatment didn't really jive with what I had learned before. And so I really wanted to dive in because the books hadn't covered it. And by the third day, the director of the clinic sat me down and he said, Katrina, my staff has been telling me that you've been asking a lot of questions, and I think you just need to trust in the process. And that just drove me nuts, because how in the world was I going to trust in the process if they couldn't answer my questions? If they didn't understand what was going to happen and why we were doing this, why would I want to trust my whole life to them? And so he kicked me out. I was kicked out of the cancer clinic, and that's where, it really got serious for me, because I felt like I was free falling. I didn't really have a plan after that. And I was super grateful. A friend connected me with a functional practitioner that specialized in cancer and had addressed her own cancer. And I had never done any testing. It was amazing to see all the things that came up. things that I wasn't getting symptoms for. I had no idea were issues. And now looking back, I get it. So cancer is multifactorial. There's always lots of things going on. It's never one thing. And that was the big eye-opening piece, was that, there was stuff I didn't know that was going on that I needed to address.
That's powerful. So, with that being said, because I could imagine all the things with you that's already been working on your health and you've seen the power of food as medicine you said in your daughter, I believe. So you've seen it. So you've seen it. You know that it can be helpful, but this still happened to you. So then at that point, you started to take more natural steps. Believe when you started working with the new practitioner. So talk a little bit about those natural remedies.
Yeah. So when we started doing the functional testing, there was a lot showing up on my testing that was really off. I was insulin resistant. I had no idea. It feels really good to have a lot of extra blood sugar running around your system. I was extremely vitamin D deficient, and I have a genetic issue that I don't absorb and convert vitamin D well. I also have insulin issues genetically. I have a hypothyroid, so it's just really sluggish, not running on all 8 cylinders, I guess it is. Not a car person, obviously. I had estrogen dominance, so my sex hormones were imbalanced. I had a lot of emotional trauma that I was going through and dealing with. And I had moved into a house 8 months before that had high levels of black mold. And I genetically do not have good detox systems. So, there were a lot of things going on that I had no idea. I didn't have symptoms of most of this. And what I did have symptoms of, it kind of just resonated with, postpartum mom, can't lose the extra 30 pounds, whatever kind of thing, kind of tired, stuff like that. So I wasn't thinking there was something wrong with me, but there was all this stuff brewing in the background.
It's interesting with that too, because a lot of these things that you're saying just sounds like normal, right? Like, we have a lot of extra blood sugar, many of us are insulin resistant and have no idea. Like by the time you become type 2 diabetes, or you have type 2 diabetes, you also insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, and type 2 diabetes is when they decide to actually start treating you, right? So a lot of these things, we're just having trouble losing that extra weight. We don't realize that it's tied into our health. Like before the show, we're talking about this is a weight management show. You have to improve your health, because when you improve your health, then your body will take care of the weight. If you're insulin resistant, or if you have insulin resistance, you need to take care of that. So then you can start losing the weight you're supposed to, instead of trying to starve yourself to lose weight. So we have to go back and think about root causes. And that's absolutely powerful. The vitamin D issue. I mean, a lot of the fumes that we inhale from the paint in our houses, like there's so many things that is impeding and making our health worse that we don't pay attention to. And I'm glad you're able to talk about those natural remedies. And we have a lot more to talk about, because there are a couple more questions I'm really going to get into and really going to dive into. I'm thinking you're going to love everyone. So just stick around for a second. But before I do that, I want to quickly talk about one of my favorite companies. I want to talk about the Amino Co. Because you've been listening to me for a while. I love these people so much, right? I mean, they make Perform, which is 100% science-backed, and it's built on amino acid technology, right? That was first funded by NASA and further refined through rigorous research, independent critical trials. So yes, I am talking about Perform, right? Because it has essential amino acids. It has creatine. Everybody knows, if you put a gun to my head, I'm going to take creatine. And it also has caffeine, which helps you to break through your burst through, have a fantastic workout. And I even drink it as a pre-workout, because this is how amazing it is. Because it has the essential aminos, a particular blend by Dr. Robert Wolf, and it has the creatine. You don't need 300, 400 milligrams of caffeine to have a hard workout, because most pre-workouts just fill you up with a bunch of caffeine, right? And a bunch of sugar. And then you get up here and then you crash and then you feel terrible. It's bad for your health. And remember, we talk about health first. So Perform helps me to knock out my workouts, because when your boy goes hard in the paint. In fact, these clinical trials, which I love about Perform, you see, they came out 20% increase in exercise completed, 22% increase in endurance, 11% increase in peak performance during exercise, and 10% improvement in cognitive function during exercise. And if anything else, your boy can use more of sometimes is that cognitive function. But let me tell you, the blend is so good, even helps you with your your concentration. I mean, it is a fantastic, fantastic blend, fantastic product. I recommend it to about everyone. And they even have some all natural flavors, the ones I drink and the ones that I promote the most. Absolutely love them, and it tastes well. But on top of that, the website aminoco.com/ecohealth, we get you 30% discount. 30% discount. Isn't that amazing? So I'll make sure that the link will be in the description of the podcast, so you can click on there and save 30% off some wonderful products. But with that being said, let's get back to the expert here, because we want to talk about natural remedies, right? We're going to talk about things that we can do, right? So let's take a step back with all those things that you discovered, Katrina, right? The question on my mind now is, what did you learn about the root causes of cancer?
Yeah, that's a great question, Zeco. So with the root causes of cancer, there's 10 areas that you want to look at to make sure that you're addressing. So just to back up a second. So I am not treating cancer. What I do is help test, see what's going on, what's going sideways, what toxins, deficiencies, and things are in the body, and support those areas so the body can perform better, so that it can then do what it's naturally already designed to do in addressing the cancer. So like I said, I didn't do any chemo, radiation, or surgeries myself. And my body was able to detox and break down the tumor, the whole golf ball, and get it out itself. Now, I'm not saying standard care is bad. There's a time and a place for sure. And a lot of my clients have done standard care, learn more, and then come to me because they want to address these root causes so that it won't come back. So I'll just go through the root causes with you, if that's okay. So yeah, the first is metabolic, which we were kind of talking about already. This has to do with the fact that cancer is a metabolic disease by definition. And when you have hyper blood sugar, so it's nice and high, and whether it's insulin resistance or full-blown diabetes, it doesn't matter. Any of that is going to be giving higher levels of glucose to the tumor that needs it to grow. And we want to shut that down. And we want to make sure that we can be metabolically flexible so that the body is functioning optimally. Hormones is another section. You hear a lot of talk about this, especially in women's health. So we're talking about the sex hormones, and especially the estrogen dominance, progesterone depletion and such, but also the thyroid. So I also mentioned that I have a hypothyroid, so it's just really kind of sluggish. And the thyroid is giving energy to the cells. So if we don't have enough energy going around, none of the other systems are going to be working at their maximum capacity, including detox and the immune system that's supposed to be breaking down the tumors, as well as everything else. The microbiome. This is really important for so many reasons, but there's a lot of really interesting research connecting the microbiome, not just if you have like a colon cancer. I'm talking about any of the cancers, because there's so many connections. So like with hormone-driven cancers, if you have a disrupted microbiome, a lot of times that bad bacteria will be making an enzyme called beta-glucuronidase that actually puts the estrogens that are packaged for excretion back into circulation. So it'll drive that estrogen dominance. And that's just one way that the microbiome can be messing with you and leading towards cancer. Also, another area is angiogenesis and metastasis. So these are big fancy words. Angiogenesis means forming new blood vessels. So when a tumor is growing, it needs ridiculous amounts of blood sugar because metabolically it's not very efficient. So it will actually signal the body by using copper to produce more blood vessels. So it gets more blood sugar coming to it. And we want to shut that down, just like we want to keep the blood sugar in range. And we also want to keep things contained. So we don't want spreading of the tumor to other places, which is that metastasis. And there are markers that we can see in the blood to see if this is happening, all of this stuff. Another area is stress. So usually we're familiar with, I've got stress on the job, stress in my relationship, but also what's going on internally. What kind of stressors? Are there parasites or blood sugar dysregulation or things like that that are stressing the body. So there's a lot of overlap with these systems. This is also going to contain the adrenal hormones. So having a good circadian rhythm where you fall asleep at the right time and you wake up at the right time, and those hormones, cortisol and melatonin that control that, are in balance as well. One of my favorite areas, and I'm being sarcastic, is the environmental toxins. And this is a really big section. So this is talking about things like chemicals, glyphosate, BPA, and lots of other chemicals that I can't even pronounce well, that we can test and see that are in our air, soil, water supply. And a lot of times we don't even know that they're there or what they are. But they're being dumped on us in record amounts. Also heavy metals, again, in the air, in the water supply, everything. And, if people have things like amalgam, silver fillings, those can all contribute to really big issues. And then, of course, we have the mold. Mold was a big thing in my journey, but I'll just tell you, between you and I test this with all of my cancer clients. And to this date, I've only had one person not have toxic levels of mold. Now, this is the crazy thing, because these are known carcinogens. No one's testing, no one's asking questions, and everyone says it doesn't matter, but we know they're carcinogenic. It doesn't make sense. This is a really big deal that people aren't looking at. Epigenetics. So we've all heard of how genetics drive cancer. It's like genetic roulette, whether you get it. This is totally not true in the research. Less than 10% of cancers are genetically driven. And so what that means is that, yes, you can look at your genes like I was talking about, I did, and see what you're predisposed to. But then there's things you can do with your lifestyle and diet and supplement choices to turn on and off these genes so they express in a way that is more favorable to you. And that's what I was talking about with the vitamin D. And I have methylation issues and detox issues. All of those I'm able to now keep in a good place epigenetically. We have the immune system, which we talked about is really important. That's where all of the killing the tumor, eating the tumor, breaking down the tumor should happen. And a lot of times, with things like autoimmune conditions that are never gotten remission, crazy vitamin D levels, those can be derailed. So we want to make sure we build up that immune system and keep it strong. Inflammation. Inflammation is a huge bucket. When you're talking about cancer, inflammation, you are like a house on fire. And so I actually use these inflammation markers of the HSCRP, that's the high sensitivity C-reactive protein, as well as the SED rate and the LDH, to monitor cancer to see if things are going sideways, long before we actually get another scan or something back. And last but not least, the 10th area that I like to look at is the mental emotional section. And this, there's not super great testing for. We can do some evaluations like the adverse childhood events quiz and such. But usually in the year prior to a cancer diagnosis, there is something, some trauma, something that has really deeply affected the cancer client's heart. Whether it's a loss of a loved one, a loss of a job, some huge shift, move, abusive relationship, you name it. And a lot of times people aren't talking about this and they're not dealing with this, and they just kind of shove it to the side and they're focused on get rid of the tumor. The tumor is the enemy. But it really goes back into making sure that your body is able to do what it needs to do. And part of that's the emotional work.
Everything that you just said, we could talk about that for an hour, because there's so many, each of them have their own little thing. And there's so much that goes into it. And I'm glad that you as an expert have look at all those, because these are things that I've had many guests on the show over the years that we've addressed each one. And I will continue to do so, because altogether, these drive not just cancer, but disease in general. So that's so powerful. And I'm glad that you're so good at your job that you look at these things and you help each other. We can't guarantee that you will or will not get a disease, but we can help you on your journey. And with that being said, Katrina, let my audience know more about your work. How can they get in touch with you, so on and so forth?
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. So my website is cancerfreedom.com. I'm on Instagram. It's just my name, Katrina Faux. And I'm on Facebook, Nutritional Pilates. That's the name of my book, which is also on Amazon. And I'll drop you the link for the show notes if you would like, for my free ebook. It's called The Roadmap to Prevent Cancer Recurrence. And it goes over all these different tests and these areas in a little bit more depth so that you can really see those connections directly to cancer, long before, because a lot of this can be done preventatively as well.
Perfect. And with that being said, her information, including her website and a link to the free ebook, will be in the show notes. Show notes going to be zecohealth.com/cancer freedom. But if you don't remember that, of course, because I'm a nice guy, I'll make sure that the link in the description of the podcast, trying to make your life easy, stress-free, as they may say. And with that being said, Katrina, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, fam.